Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and I'm standing outside a house that caught my attention and might be a possible deal, and I wanted to walk through it and tell people why it looks like a good deal, and things I look for when looking at houses for the first time. So this one is currently for sale. I doubt I'll make an offer on it unless it's super crazy and cool inside, or doesn't need hardly any work. But I wanted to give some other people some insights into what we look for when we're flipping houses or buying rentals. This could be a rental or a flip or a house hack. It has lots of possibilities, which is one reason why I was interested in it. And some of you may or may not recognize that house. That's a college rental, a flip we sold last year. So, and this one happens to be right next door. It is Fun Car Friday, and beautiful day. It's supposed to have thunderstorms again, of course, later today, like we have every day it seems like this year. But this is a college area, so the college is about 2 blocks away, and this could be a great college rental, but it could also be a single family home. And the reason for that is most of these were college rentals, but they're actually becoming more single family homes just because there's a shortage of housing, and so people are looking for even single family rentals over here, or to buy houses to live in over here, where before that was pretty rare. So when I walk through houses like this, obviously it's pretty old. Obviously I care about the price, which I'll talk about here, but some of the things I look at, windows are very important. They're very expensive. You want to look at the big ticket items. Flooring, I just usually assume I have to redo the flooring on every single property. So honestly, that's not important, except when it's in good shape. And this isn't bad, especially if you're gonna use this as a college rental. You really don't need to do much here. The windows are older, as you can see, but they lock, they have their pulls. You might be able to save those, especially as a college rental. And you can see these have been replaced up front, and they just don't look as good. Even though they're newer windows, the old houses that have the trim like this, which are hard to find, look so much better with the older windows, even though they're grossly inefficient. But, some people do like the looks as opposed to the efficiency. Light fixtures, again, I don't care about too much, but these are okay. This carpet is actually okay too. It's really not in bad shape. Now, here's something you kind of want to look at. You can see that is probably water damage from water running down the wall, most likely. So you want to get outside, look at the roof, see what's going on there, or siding, or I think it's mostly brick, right? That's something to look at. Right here is something that somewhat concerning. Just this crack right here could indicate some structural stuff. Well, you want to look in the basement or crawl space and see if there's any foundation issues that might be causing that. That's something to watch out for. Again, it could be nothing, or it could be a major problem. If you don't have experience in investing or properties, it's always good to get a home inspection, have experts look at stuff. If you think there might be structural problems, don't just rely on an inspector either. Have a professional come out and look at it, possibly an engineer, although engineers can be tricky and very busy. Again, some water right there. That could just be old windows, water getting in through them, or someone leaving the window open, which happens with college rentals. So there could be a lot going on, or there could be hardly anything going on. There's an old light fixture, so that's kind of cool. More old windows. We'll want to obviously look at the HVAC, see how that looks. We'll take a peek at the roof. I didn't really pay attention to it outside, but that's obviously a good thing to look at too. The bathroom is where you can spend a lot of money, bathrooms and kitchens. Again, if you're just using this as a college rental, you don't have to make it fancy at all. There's also the chance the college tenants will make it less fancy with their shenanigans they may or may not decide to pull. So you usually don't want to make a college rental fancy at all. But if it was a single family rental, then you want to do a little more work. And if you're flipping it, maybe you do more work, maybe you don't on a house like this, because if the new buyer's an investor who's going to use it as a college rental, they might not want it that nice either. So there's lots of different opportunities and possibilities on a house like this. So it has 2 bedrooms up, which is important to know if you're thinking about income, thinking about how much it would rent for, what your value would be. You could probably rent this for $1,250 to $1,300 a month on the upstairs unit, and it's supposed to have a separate downstairs unit. And the doors are all locking, which also indicates they may have been renting it per bedroom, which is also an option too. You could rent these per bedroom, maybe get a little bit more money. My sister owns college rentals, and she has done that quite a bit. And surprisingly, she says it also reduces the wear and tear on properties, because if you get, 5 college kids who are friends together, they might be throwing parties, having friends over all the time, doing more damage. But if you have 5 college kids or 4 college kids who don't know each other, they're probably not going to have parties. They're going to keep to themselves. It might not cause much damage. So I didn't really think of it that way, but she said it's really helped on her. I'm trying to get into the electrical panel, but it's painted shut. Helped on her maintenance and repairs. I just tend to stay away from college rentals myself, but well, we're not getting into that. It is completely painted shut. All right. So what does the kitchen look like? I did walk through just real quick to open up the house, but I haven't looked at anything closely. Again, you can tell, very old kitchen. No dishwasher. If it's a college rental, it's not the end of the world, but I think most college kids definitely want a dishwasher. I know I did. It's pretty small. Boy, it's pretty old. So this kitchen definitely leaves some things to be desired. Let's take a look at the plumbing under there if we can see it. Just the drain, so that looks okay. You've got GFCIs, which is good. So it's okay. It's kind of a mix. There's a broken window here. So you're definitely going to have to do some repairs. My biggest concern so far in this house would be this kitchen not having a dishwasher and kind of having a weird layout. That might make it tough to rent. So that's something to think about. Not the end of the world, but something to think about. All right, so here would be the second unit. You would get into the second unit from this entrance right here. So if you're gonna have 2 units, it's very important to have a separate entrance, to have 2 real units, obviously. But a lot of people don't think about that. And some people do have, basements that are rented out where they have to walk through their own personal space or another unit, which is a little bit tricky. All right, we'll see what the mechanicals look like down here and see if we can see any of the foundation or anything, which we can. Cinder block foundation, okay. You don't see that too often around here. Maybe, you'll see it a little bit above the ground, but it's rare to see it all the way down there. So I don't see anything too crazy, but again, don't see many cinder block foundations. You're kind of looking for big cracks, big bows, but with the cinder block, you probably don't get as much cracking because the blocks will just separate instead of cracking. All right, water heater, that looks old. Probably have to replace that. 7522, that one's probably good. They have 2 water heaters for each unit. That's good to see. Oh, it's got 2 furnaces too. That's really nice. So those both look like they're in decent shape as well. Still want to get them checked out if you're depending on them being in good shape, because furnaces that aren't maintained can go bad fairly quickly. If they're maintained well, they can last a long time, but if they're not, they can go bad pretty quickly. Interesting, kind of stinky under the garage or under the stairs area. That looks like some rust, so probably some water damage, water down here at some point. Again, not something I'm terribly concerned about. You have water in houses. It happens. Man, this doesn't open either. I wonder if they did this. Oh, now I'm being a... Jeez. There we go. For the college kids, but I just wrecked that idea. So, fairly updated. Looks fairly good. Nothing too crazy there. Again, if you're not an expert on electric systems, don't worry. You don't have to be. You can have a home inspector check it out, tell you what they see. And this light doesn't work. I'm assuming this is is this real brick? This actually looks like, it is. That's real brick. Interesting. is the foundation brick or is another broken window. I'll have to look on the outside. That'd be very interesting if the foundation goes all the way down. This is actually a really nice basement apartment. The kitchen's decent. Again, no dishwasher. You could put one in, but then you're really messing up your cabinets and counter. That's tricky. I guess you could get away without it, but it'd sure be nice to have one. Kind of a low ceiling. It's about 6'8", 6'10" is the ceiling height, I'd say. Lower here, this is probably about 6'4", 6'3". I can fit under it, but not everybody could. Egress windows, super nice to have. They look kind of small. Not sure if that's code, but still super nice to have egress windows in a college rental especially. That makes it more valuable. And again, this unit, which is pretty decent down here, could probably, little crack there, not a huge deal for a college rental. Rent for $12.50. Close to what the upstairs would because you kind of have a daylight basement, which is nice. And it's almost laid out a little better than upstairs. Doesn't have the character, all the wood trim, but basements are also nice because they'll stay cool. You know, won't get as hot in the summer. So some people do prefer basements, believe it or not. So that's the house. It has a garage with it too. So we'll look at that. And we'll look at some of the outside. Oh, I know what we need to look at. It's always more kind of issues. Like, again, that doesn't worry me too much. We should have looked at any electrical wires we can see up here. Those are cable. There's electrical, which is newer stuff there. It's all insulated in here, which is actually a really good sign. If they insulated between the units, that's fantastic. Some more wiring up here. That all looks pretty decent. It's not like super scary, knob and tube, and all your plumbing is copper. That looks newer. So your major systems, I think, are good here, which is fantastic. Just some cosmetic stuff or kitchen stuff if you want to do that. So it does have that little garage too, which could be a bonus. You could, if you can fit a car in there, it's pretty small. I don't think the Diablo would fit in there. It's too wide, but maybe another car. If you could get a car in there, you might be able to charge another $100 a month in rent for the garage, possibly. But the one thing I want to look at is the foundation and that roof. And that roof is bad. I can almost guarantee you it's bad. Things to look at. It's very, very shiny, which means most of the granules are probably worn off and gone. Some of the shingles are kind of starting to warp a little bit or curl up. That's a bad sign. You can see one spot right in the middle there. I don't know if it's been patched or just had damage there. So I'd almost guarantee this roof has to be done. And that's probably a $8,000 roof, depending on how bad it is. It's a very old house. So if you have to do decking or any work underneath it, it could be much more than that. So, oh, there's your old coal chute. Those are always cool to see. Egress windows. And over here was kind of that crack we saw in the bedroom, where there could be foundation stuff. It all looks really good. You don't want to go cutting into the walls. So honestly, after seeing this foundation and what the basement looked like, I wouldn't be too worried about it myself. Again, you could always get someone to check it out if you don't know, if you're worried about it. But again, not too worried. Right there, that corner is where there might have been water damage coming in. And could have been old, it could be from 30 years ago, who knows. But it doesn't look like anything too crazy going on out here. You could always get up in the attic and look up there and see if there's any signs of water damage or roof leaks in the past. That could be what it was from too. Again, your inspector should do that. You don't have to do all that yourself. So overall, this house really isn't bad. I guess we should peek in the garage and make sure it looks okay. The yard is not great. Again, college rentals aren't super important for yards, but you could clean it up a little bit. And the price is pretty good. For what the house is, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't sold. So we'll talk about that here and why it would be a good deal. So here's the garage. And actually the roof on it looks better than the roof on the house. But I'd still get that checked out. I'm not expecting too much in here. Be tough to put a car in here. That'd be really tight. Maybe. It could just be a workshop. and it looks like that's what they used it for. So the price on this house is $350 right now. And so I'll show you the MLS and why there's some signs that not only is that a pretty decent price, but they might take a lot lower than that as well. So we'll look at that right now. So I'm on my MLS system. MLS stands for Multiple Listing Service. It is the system real estate agents can access. Sometimes you might be able to access it as a non-agent if you're working with an agent. But this is how we can look at comps, properties for sale, and get lots of different information. So if I'm searching for comps, so what comps are comparable sales or active listings. I want to try and figure out what this property is worth. I'm going to see what is sold in the neighborhood that's similar to the property and what's currently for sale to try and get an idea of the value. And so there's all kinds of things I can do here, and I won't go through this super fast, but I want to pick income property, residential detached, just because that's the type of property it is. Coming soon, active backup means it's under contract. Active first right means it's sort of under contract, but the people have a house to sell. Sold. I won't worry about expired and withdrawn. I want to go back 6 months usually, maybe less, maybe more, depending on the area and what you're looking at. And then I'll kind of do a map search too of where the area is, kind of, because I want to be in a certain area for college rentals. And that's what I really want to compare this to. So I don't want to get too far out because then they'll definitely have a huge range of values. And this is something that you kind of learn as an investor or agent in your area, where values are in different areas. So if you're brand new to this and trying to figure out values, and sometimes wholesalers do this too, is they'll say, hey, this is close to the college, but it's actually a mile away from the college and not zoned right. Huge difference in value there between a property that's 2 blocks from the college and zoned right. So it really takes some market experience. If you don't have that experience, talk to agents who have experience in working with investment properties. They can probably help you and determine where those areas are. So we can kind of see here, there's 42 properties that came up. That's a lot. That's tiny. So I want to kind of look at properties that have at least a finished basement. That's also very tiny, sold for $298. That's kind of your minimum price right there. But I'm still kind of looking through here just to see. That was a really good deal. That sold for $20,000 over asking price. So that gives you an idea too of, hey, it listed for $300, it sold for $320. They probably listed it too low, and it might even be worth more than that if they had listed it at a better price. But that's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. This is also a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And we'll just kind of go through here. And here's one for sale for $330. That's 2 units. You can see here, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Is it rented? Prime college rental. It's in a college rental area, fully rented. Let's see, Unit A rented until 10/31/23 at $975. Unit B at $925. So this is why you'll see properties that are for sale for less too. That's rented way below market rent. So if we get out my calculator, and I can do some quick calculations, again, just using gross rent multiplier, very simple stuff. 975 plus 925 equals 1900 a month for both units. We multiply that by 12 to get our yearly number, 22,800. If we just use a gross rent multiplier, which is very simple, not going through cap rates and all the other stuff, and we'll just use the number 8%, which is pretty close to what stuff is selling for. That would make that worth $285,000. So it's actually priced a little too high based on the current rents, but it still might sell because an investor can come in and say, hey, I can buy this. When the leases expire, I can rent it for higher. It's worth more. So if this was rented for what market rent is, which probably $1,250 plus, honestly, $1,250 in that range for each unit, multiply that by 12, and then we do this divided by 0.08 again, we get $375,000 as the value. So you can see the huge difference in value based on renting it for market rent versus renting it way below market rent. If you want to sell, if you want to refinance too, it's really important to have your rents as close to market as you can get them. And this is also a good way to get decent deals is by buying properties that are under rented, which you see us do all the time, and rehabbing them, maybe offering cash for keys sometimes, just waiting until leases are up, and then raising rents a little bit. So that can definitely make a difference. Here's another one. Oh, that's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Again, a 3-bedroom rented for $1,150, 2-bedroom rented for $1,000. under market rent, and that's why this one sold for quite a bit less than it could have had it had market rents. We'll do that same scenario there. For a 3-bedroom that's close to the college, honestly, you should be getting at least 1,400, maybe even 15 or more. We're going to just be very conservative. We'll be very conservative in the basement too, and say 2,650 times 12, divide that by 0.08, 397. So by under renting it or leaving tenants in there, they cost themselves $60,000. Maybe a little less after fees and commissions, but just very important when you're selling properties to have them rented for as much as you can. Or it's even more advantageous to have it vacant than under rented. So if you're selling an income property, or especially a single family home, it's better to sell it vacant than to have it rented for too little. Because if it's rented for too little, me as an investor coming to buy that property sees that and says, okay, I'm going to have to go in there and possibly have the tenants leave. What if they don't want to leave? What kind of work will it be done? Are these tenants paying rent? Are they good tenants, bad tenants? I don't know. It's much better to have a vacant property than one that's under rented and with a lot of questions. All right, we'll keep going through comps. That was a nice big one. It was totally vacant, but it sold for way below asking. That was a good deal. 4.2. I may have wanted to buy that one. No. Here's another one. Look at this list price. Oh, that was an auction one, I think. Yes, as an auction, sold for 350, 4.2. So this is just giving you that one was vacant and needed work, an idea of prices. That was a 4.2, sold for 350. That's just one unit though. Here's another one that's not really the same thing. Another one, much smaller, and that is not zoned for, maybe it's zoned for multifamily, but I might find, here's one that's much similar, 4.2. Let's see what, oh, I remember this one. I saw this one. This one is not zoned for multifamily either. So that's the big issue with it and why it's so less. It was set up for 2 units, had what could be a finished basement, but it was not zoned correctly, which is a huge detraction in value. All right, another one here sold for 355. It's much smaller, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. I remember seeing this one as well. 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 4-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And this one, again, same thing. It was rented for way below market value, way below. They don't have the rents on here, but I remember asking about it, and it's just rented for really low, and that's why that price is so low. It'd be worth $100,000 more if it was rented for the right price. Here's another one, a 4.3, 2 units, will be sold as is. So if a property needs work, or even if it doesn't need work, don't ever say will be sold as is. That just means it tells me it needs work, and I need to watch out for that. 1026 23rd. Okay, still looking for kind of a 1747th Avenue. 1 3-bedroom, 1 2-bedroom, sold for 370. Let's see here. Both contracts fell through. Upstairs unit is vacant. Oh, they have Tesla solar panels, which can be a detraction. So it's hard to know what the rents are, but this gives us an idea. Oh, look at that. That's a beautiful floors. Interesting kitchen. And just looking at these comps, the one we're looking at is 350,000, but you might be able to get it for less. Stuff has kind of dropped down a little bit in the college, I feel like, in income properties, and interest rates have a big thing to do with that. And in general, I think college rentals are kind of on the decline a little bit because there's a big question mark about how many people are going into schools. Oh, that's my listing. And this is the one I sold. I sold mine for $395 right next door, and that was in January. So this kind of gives us an idea of what value is like, but it was January, so it's hard to say. But ours was totally vacant, not rented, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, set up very similar to the one next door. And it wasn't crazy fancy. It was nice, but nothing ridiculous. That was not a new kitchen. We just painted the countertops and painted the cabinets. And so we did some work there, but nothing crazy. And we sold it for $395. So I would think this house with a new roof minor updates would be worth it in that range too. And if you were able to get it rented, full market rent, you might be able to get just a little bit more, just depends. But it could also be a house hack, which I think is a huge advantage for people too. So there's just a lot of things to look at. And looking at comps here, this is a 6-bedroom, 1 unit, which is tricky to rent right now. So again, knowing how college rentals work is very important as well to invest in this type of property. Here's another one, 5-bedroom, 2-bath for $419. Let's see if this is 2-car garage as well. I think it's just 1 unit though. So that's interesting. But just looking at these properties, trying to compare them to the one we're looking at gives us an idea of what values are. And an agent can help you with this if you don't know what you're doing. So, and here's one that sold for $425. That's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Let me see. It is just 1 unit too. 3-car garage. Okay. I was like, this sounds like it sold for more than it should have. Has a big 3-car garage. That's why. That makes sense. Yeah, here's that big garage they're talking about. So that definitely adds some value there. So valuing this property is a little tricky. I would say if I had to estimate the sales price, the one next door does give a very good comp. Sold for $395. Maybe stuff's selling for a little bit less now. It's hard to say. But I think it's worth close to that. Maybe a little bit less, $390, $385 with some work. So then we can look at some different things and say, is this a good deal? They're asking $350 for it. But one reason they might take a little bit less so is because they've been lowering the price significantly. So it started at $410 and it's been dropping all the way down to $350. And then it went under contract and then it fell back out of contract again, which also means there might be some motivation to take a little lower price. So not saying it's guaranteed, but I'd say this is a good candidate to offer a little bit lower, and probably nothing crazy. Maybe if you could offer $320, negotiate around $330. This is just pure speculation. I don't know what the seller's motivation is or what they would do, but or maybe they won't. Who knows? But if you could get the property at $330, then it would probably be a good deal considering your comp sales here. I didn't write this thing, so I write that in later. The good comps are really from $350 to $400. $400 is probably a little too much. And really, value, if it's in decent shape, nothing crazy, just pretty much how it looks now, maybe a little bit of work in the kitchen, maybe doing the roof, I would say $385. And with the value and condition and things like that too, you might be able to ask the sellers to put a roof on it for you. Or you can ask them to check with their insurance company and say, hey, have your insurance company inspect it, see if there's hail damage. They might get a roof put on there by their insurance company, and they just have to pay the deductible, which would be a win-win for everyone. So maybe you don't have to do all those repairs. Maybe you do. Just depends on the situation. Maybe they're not willing to do any repairs at all. Maybe they're willing to fix it up. Because some of the other repairs that might be needed are, like we said, roof maybe is needed. I think it's needed, but maybe you can have them pay for it. Maybe not. You've got some of the kitchen work. If you're putting dishwashers in, you might have to do that, might not. But let's just say $5,000. All the mechanicals look like they're in great condition. Some of the windows were broken. We definitely want to fix those. You might be able to ask them to fix those as well. So that those could be lending issues too. We're not replacing all the windows, just some of them. That water heater, at least one of them needed to be replaced. It used to be so much cheaper to do water heaters. We'll say $1,200. That's just a rough range. And then you probably have some miscellaneous stuff that you always have, you never know about. So we'll just put $5,000 in for that. And so your total here, if I can do math, is $1,516.2. Maybe, did I do that right? For total repairs, and maybe less depending on what you do. But you could also spend a lot more if you want to go in there and blow out the whole kitchens, blow out the bathrooms, do all kinds of craziness. Yes, you could spend much more, but it's pretty decent shape from what I could see. And you could also do a home inspection, make sure you're not missing anything major here if you're really looking at the house. If I was going to flip this, if I was going to use it as a rental, I would take that number and add more onto it, because I probably wouldn't do an inspection, but I'd assume I probably missed something too. So I might say, oh, it needs 20, 25,000 in work. And hopefully if it comes in lower, that's great. If it doesn't, At least I know. I just realized I did do my math wrong. I forgot the 5,000 there. So it's 21.2, which makes more sense. It's very hard to do any repairs in a house for less than 20,000. So yeah, if I was going to look at it as a flip, I'd probably consider I need 25, 28,000 in that range, because there'd be something I would miss. So then you'd probably want to look at what your payment's going to be if you're going to buy this property, either as a house hack or an investment. I like to go to Bankrate and just do their amortization schedule, because it lets me enter all the information I want. I don't even care about the amortization schedule that much. I just like their calculator better. So I can put in the loan amount, and this depends on kind of, if you're using it as a straight investment property, let's say we get it for $330,000. I might be hiding that behind my face, sorry. And then you're doing 20% down, so we'll multiply by 0.8. Your loan would be 264. 264. Oh, put it in the wrong place. 264. 30-year, if you can get it, would be great. Interest rates, at least 7.5 for an investment loan, maybe even 8 right now. Just depends on your lender. So your monthly payment would be $1,846 a month. Plus you'd have insurance, plus you'd have taxes. Probably add on another $300-400 for that. Let's say $2,200 a month is your payment. We said it would, let's see here, we'll do this here. Payment equals $2,200 PITI, which stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And your rent might be, let's say, what did we say, $2,400. So here's the thing with that. On paper, it cash flows a little bit, but we're not thinking about vacancies. We're not thinking about property management. We're not thinking about if you're paying any utilities for tenants. We're not thinking about any maintenance. So as a straight investment property, it's not that great right now. But why would you still consider it? Well, let's go back to here. Let's say interest rates drop back down to 6. Then your payment's $1,583. Now you're actually making some money on it. It's probably a decent investment. So if you're betting that interest rates go down, you can refinance later. Maybe that works. If for some reason they get down to 5 for investment loans, $1,400. Now you're really actually making money on this property, and hopefully while you're owning it, you're paying the loan down. You have some appreciation. There's tax advantages. So there's advantages to buying rentals, even when they don't cash flow amazingly right now. But you want to be very careful with that. If you're a brand new investor, maybe that's not the best idea. If you don't have, cash reserves built up to handle, tight cash flowing properties, maybe that's not a good idea. But for some investors, it might be. Now, what about if you're buying it as an owner-occupant? Now, we've got and something else to consider too is 330 times 0.2. 330, not 33,000 times 0.2. You're probably putting $66,000 down. That's why it's harder for investors to buy when property prices are so high. Investors don't want high prices. They want lower prices. It makes everything so much easier. So you're putting $66,000 down, plus you probably got $10,000 in closing costs, plus the repairs we're talking about. I mean, you're close to $100,000 of money into this property if you're buying it as a traditional rental, and it's not making that much money. So that's actually why the amount of rentals has been decreasing lately, because it's harder for investors to make money. Rents are going up. The amount of rentals is going down. And if rates go down, it would make things so much easier. But with high rates, it's really hard for investors. And that's why you see some of the prices of these income properties drop down as well. But anyway, let's say you're an owner-occupant and you get it for $330 times 0.965. You're doing FHA, 3.5% down. Your loan is $318,450. Oops. Now, your interest rate is probably a little bit lower than an investment property. We'll say 6.7%. So your payment's $2,050, but you've got taxes, insurance, so you're probably up around $2,300 a month. Plus, you've got mortgage insurance on most owner-occupant low down payment loans, so you're probably close to $2,500 a month in that range for your payment, which obviously, if we go back to our little form right here, and our rent's $2,400. You're losing money. But if you're doing FHA, you're living in one of the units. And so what you're thinking is, okay, I'm collecting $1,200 in rent from the basement, and that means my payment is only $1,300 a month because I'm getting this rent coming in. And so I'm able to buy this property, have some rent coming in, my payment's lower than it would be on a regular house, and when I move out, I can rent it and not really make any money, but do okay. So again, it's the high interest rates make it tough. It could still be a good deal if you want to buy a house, if you want to buy a house hack. Now, you think, well, if you move out and you can't rent it for as much and you're losing money, that's dumb. Maybe rents go up, and maybe you don't move out. Maybe you just live there for quite a while until you can refinance, get a much lower rate. There's different options. But if you buying a house is definitely an advantage, owner, occupant, or investor. And if house hacking allows you to more easily buy a house, is probably a good thing, even with higher rates. So because you're paying down the loan, the property's going up in value, and you're not paying rent. Because don't forget, if you don't buy and you're renting a property, you're paying that $1,800 a month or whatever, $2,000 a month for a house instead of paying $1,300 for a mortgage after you've got the house hack. And yeah, eventually, let's say rates go down, they'll be lower for owner occupants. Maybe they go down to 4. That might be wishful thinking. Then your payment's $1,500, $20 plus the other stuff. You're in better shape. If your value goes up over time, you can refinance, get the PMI off there, the private mortgage insurance. That'll lower your expenses as well. So lots of different things to do and think about. Obviously, I went through some quick math, didn't do the whole thing, but that's the kind of math you want to think about and go through if you're buying an investment property or as an owner-occupant house hacking. Just thinking about, not just right now, but in the future, if you can refinance at a lower rate. Again, don't put all your eggs in one basket and have to have that happen to make it work, right? But maybe it works out later on if you can do that. If not, make sure you can still handle the property. If you're an owner-occupant, don't just think about how much the mortgage is. Think about what you're paying in rent if you don't buy a house as well. That's a huge thing a lot of people forget about. Say, look how expensive a house is and how it's a horrible investment, but they forget to tell you how much rent you're paying on the other side, and they forget to tell you that rent keeps going up and up and up too every year. Not every year, but over time it keeps going up, while your mortgage payment is probably going to stay the same, or if rates go down, might even decrease later on. Now, something else to think about with this particular house too, if you're buying as an owner-occupant or an investor, there are a few issues that might make financing difficult on it. One, the roof. Some lenders, if that roof is bad, right, they'll order an appraisal. The appraiser will go through, make sure the house is worth what you're paying for it, which should be no problem. But he can call out safety and major repairs and say, we're not going to give you the loan unless these repairs are fixed. So if that roof is bad, they might say, we're not going to do the loan unless that roof is fixed, or you do some kind of escrow agreement. But that's another good reason why the seller might fix that roof for you. That might decrease your costs into the home. And if you are an owner-occupant, maybe the roof has a couple of years left in it, but that's something you'd probably want to get the seller to pay for if you can. The broken windows definitely could be a safety concern. They might call those out. That might be something else you can get the seller to pay for as well. But if the seller won't pay for those things, and if your lender doesn't have an escrow program, which they may or may not, those things can prevent you from getting a loan on this house. And that's why when we flip houses that are in really rough shape, you see those properties all the time on the channel. And people say, oh, you took a house away from an owner-occupant. No, most owner-occupants don't ever want to touch a house that needs as much work as the ones we buy. And secondly, most owner-occupant loans will not even allow them to buy it because of the repairs needed. There are some loans like an FHA 203K, which allows you to finance repairs, but they can take months to get, and most sellers won't even accept contracts with those loans, so it's not always a viable option. So there's a lot of different things to think about, a lot to go over. My books do go over a lot of this as well. I've got a book on how to buy a house on Amazon by Mark Ferguson, Build a Rental Property Empire, about investing in rental properties, all the things to look at. Build a Commercial Rental Property Empire, which goes into commercial properties. So there's a lot of resources. I talk about all my properties on the YouTube channel. My blog, investformore.com, has tons of free articles about lots of these different subjects as well, to give you lots of information out there. And a lot of this too is going out, looking at houses, doing the math yourself, having an agent help you or a lender help you too. Make sure they're competent. If they don't sound like they know what they're doing, don't be afraid to talk to somebody else and see if they do. There's a lot of different options out there. And I know it's complicated and there's a lot going into it, but experience teaches you a lot as well. So I've learned a lot of the things I've done over the years by doing it, figuring out what I did wrong, doing it again the right way the next time. So don't feel like it's so overwhelming you can't do this or handle it. You can, and the more you learn, the more you read, the more you watch, and when you actually do it, you'll learn a lot more and become much more proficient at it. All right. Thanks for watching. If you made it through this whole video, this was a long one. Of course, we love the likes, comments, shares, and we'll have many more videos of my commercial properties, residential properties, businesses, the laundromat, all that stuff coming up here as well.